it's me, Vicky Marie. Oh my goodness, I'm just looking at how crap the makeup is that I've put on. I've been dashing about. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world. Anyway, it's crazy today, that's for sure. So yeah, I was setting up this live stream earlier. It was all tranquil. I had things that I had to do this morning. Set up the live stream for 11:15 Spanish time. I thought that'd give me plenty of time. This was 2 hours ago. Oh God, my nails. Look at my nails. I haven't had a chance to do my nails. I haven't had a chance to do anything. Sorry about the state of me. I've just tried to make myself look as presentable as possible. But I had so little time because then just as I'd set up the stream, because what we're going to talk about, of course, is Rob Reiner and the Nepo baby. Oh God, this man, I'm so angry with him for what he did to his parents, who did nothing but love him. They tried their very best for him and he murdered them. And not only that, but brutally, nastily, maybe there isn't a way of murdering someone that's not brutal or nasty, but I think in his case particularly so. So I wanted to talk about that because he's just been indicted and details are coming out about how he supposedly laid in wait. Oh, so angry with him, so angry with this man. Couldn't call him a man, actually. Anyway, he's the one that will suffer for it ultimately, because those parents of his, they cared about him. Probably the only people in the world who did care about him. They tried to help him. They threw everything at him, all their resources, all their love, all their money, and there was a lot of money. They couldn't save him or themselves. Anyway, that's what the main, what we're going to talk about in this video. That was the intention of the video. Then, this bombshell news came through about Patrick Oren Stevenson, the alleged murderer, another twonk, in my opinion, another indulged, narcissistic, sort of golden balls type boy that didn't deserve the nice treatment he had from his parents, though it wasn't his parents that he's murdered, but he's ruined their life, really, at the end of the day. If you presume he's guilty, of course, he's not been proven guilty. We always have to remember that. He has made an attempt to take himself off this planet, apparently, in prison. So he's in detention. We've seen recently this case is taking forever. Poor Samantha Murphy, actually, if the police are correct in what they say, she was murdered in a targeted attack as she was running through the Enfield Forest near Ballarat in Australia. Just a Sunday morning jog like women do every Sunday morning, like men do, like everybody does, part of normal life. She'd done it probably loads of times, thousands of times before. That morning she got up, she cleared up after her dog. It was just a normal morning. Every day is Groundhog Day until it isn't it? Every morning we get up, we do our routines. Maybe life seems boring sometimes. But you know what? Then the day where it all goes, where it's not boring. Boring is good, really, in life. If your life is boring, sometimes that's a good thing. Because then what happened to Samantha and her family on that morning wasn't boring, was it? Off she went to do her jog and never came home. And she still has not come home, either living or dead, because her remains have not been found. This boy, Patrick Oren Stevenson, who I think was 21 or 22 at the time of when it happened, he's been in detention since he was arrested a month later. We're coming up to his trial inexorably. I mean, it feels like it's taking forever to us, but for him, he's probably dreading it. He wants to be free, obviously. But I think as the evidence is coming out, all this overwhelming evidence against him, is that why he's decided to try and escape justice in a different way. He won't be the first person to have done that. He won't be the first person to have, can't face his family and let them know the truth of what sort of a person he really is. Because obviously his parents are standing by him. You can't blame them. He's telling them probably that he didn't do it. His girlfriend's standing by him, and they want to believe him. Of course they want to believe him. I understand that 100%. But just makes you wonder, as the evidence is coming out in the pre-trial hearings, is he realising now, that the case is too strong against him? Is that why he's made this attempt at self-deletion? Or is it just because he feels like he's never going to be believed and he's actually very wronged and he can't face it for that reason? I mean, we don't know what's happening to him in the detention centre. He could be having problems from other inmates because it's a very high-profile case, isn't it? He's quite a handsome boy, so we've seen, he's bulked up a lot in prison. Is he, I don't know if he's in isolation, or is he under threat from other inmates? Is he under SEX threat from other inmates? Being a young man, quite good looking. Notice he's been to the gym a lot because he's built like a brick shithouse now, which he wasn't before he went in. He was more sort of wiry, muscly, strong, but, because he's a football player, etc. But now he's like real muscle, you can see in his sketches, because we only get to see sketches, though I have seen videos from the court appearances. He's really big, broad now. And he's a bit older, of course. People do thicken out, don't they, as they get older, young men. There's a big difference between a young man of 18, 19, then when they get into their 20s, especially if they're working out. So is he under problems that way? Is he under threat in prison and he just couldn't face it anymore? Or does he realise that the truth is all going to come out? Who knows what the reason is. But anyway, this is what's definitely happened. That's all we know so far. All we know is he's made an attempt on his own life. He was taken to hospital, but all the details we don't know yet. So I just want to get that out of the way, because I know a lot of people will be interested in that, but I'm not going to talk about that anymore in this video, because this video is about Rob Reiner, another self-entitled twonk. But so we'll stick to the theme of this video. But if any news breaks, it'd be, it's evening time in Australia now, so maybe later on, when Australia wakes up again, before we get full details. So we're going to concentrate on the case of Rob Reiner. God, terrible case. They're all terrible cases, I know, but the thought of someone, a man who kills his own parents, especially that his parents have been good to him, it's terrible, isn't it? But that's what we're going to talk about in this video. His new charges, his indictment for their murder. He was lying in wait, apparently. Just so chilling, that, isn't it? This lying in wait scenario. Anyway, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone. Sorry, I am just, my nails, because I've got a nail that's a little bit snagged. It's irritating, isn't it? Just, and really my nails need doing completely, but I just haven't had time. Have a little vape. Take a deep breath, relax. Been running around like a headless chicken. That's a horrible expression, actually, isn't it? Running around like a headless chicken. I wish I hadn't said that, because it's conjured up this image. I won't be saying that again. Let's put it that way. A whirring dervish, a Tasmanian devil. But thank you to everyone. Gosh, I love my chatters so much. You're just so nice. The messages that I get, the emails that I get. Lots of you have taken advantage of my offer. You know, there's a 25% off all merch on my Ko-fi page. Please check that out. 25% off everything. Thank you to those of you who've sent me Ko-fis, because it's for my birthday Ko-fis, because my birthday on Sunday. Another year around the sun. Well, lucky me, because a lot of people don't get to my advanced age. You know, a lot of people don't get very far in life at all. Not that I'm ready to go yet or anything, but do you know what I'm saying? Some people get their lives cut much shorter. Like Samantha. Samantha was 51 years old with 3 children, happily married, successful business, everything to live for. And that twonk allegedly cut all that short. And then really, if you think even about him, he's cut his own life short, hasn't he? You know, by what he's done, allegedly. You know, he's ruined his family's life, his girlfriend's life, you know, all those things. So, yeah, I count myself very lucky that if I get to Sunday, because you never know, even tomorrow is not guaranteed, is it? Today, later today, you know, you just don't know. You sort of just have to take one day as it comes. It's been a difficult year this year. I've lost 3 people that I cared about this year. There's been all sorts of things going wrong, but I'm still here and I'm still going, and I get up every morning, I put one foot forward, and I know there's a lot of you out there doing the same. That is real bravery. Do you know what I mean? It's like bravery, character, strength. Not to go and rob someone or to go and murder someone or take something from somebody else because you can't be asked to get up off your arse and work for yourself. Take it off somebody else. That's not bravery. Bravery are people that face life with all its challenges, whatever they might be. Could be mental health issues, could be physical health issues, could be relationship issues, domestic violence, financial. There's so many issues it might be. Life is not a bowl of cherries, is it? You know, it sort of is in some ways. You get good days, you get bad days. You always have to remember that every day is not good, but every day normally has something good. Even if you just woke up, you came down, you made your coffee, you took your dogs for a walk, you hugged your husband, your wife, your kids. You know, there's always something good, and we have to fixate on the good, don't we? And try to fixate on the positive rather than the negative. But, you know, sometimes it's hard, I know that, but we're all in it together. None of us are getting out of it alive. We can support each other. I think that's what we do on this channel. We had a members live last night, where members lives are normally just a bit of chatting about all sorts of things, supporting each other. People go through hard things in life, you know, and we can't always change it. In fact, we often, really, probably 90% of the time, we can't change what someone's going through. We can only support them, can't we? And that's what you all do. Thank you so much for that. With your messages, with your comments, with your emails. And then some of you, as I say, go a little bit further, my members, people who buy Ko-fis, buy merchandise, send PayPals, etc. You all support my channel. The thing is, you know, YouTube channel, especially little YouTube channels like mine, you know, it's you sort of need support, you know. It's like you do. So not only the financial support, but there are days where I get up and I think, oh, I don't really feel like doing a video today because, I don't know, also because of the nature of the videos I do, true crime, quite often get demonetized. So, you know, you think, well, you know, I know I'm not going to earn thousands from my YouTube channel, but if you're earning a little bit, at least it pays for your outgoings and things. But then when you get demonetized because you're talking about a child's case or, I don't know, something that YouTube doesn't like, it's sort of demoralizing because, but then you get a message from a chatter saying, oh, thank you for your videos, you know, I really enjoy your channel, blah, 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 blah. And that just makes you think, well, this is why I'm doing it as well. Not only for me, because I do it for me, of course. I enjoy doing it, otherwise I wouldn't do it at all. But on the days when I don't feel like doing it, maybe, then when I get a nice message or whatever from people, oh, keep going, don't give up, or just a message of support, it makes me realise that I do it because people, for some unknown inexplicable reason that I don't really quite understand, quite like watching my videos. So thank you for all that kind of support that you give me. Thank you so much. Hello, lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Hello to replay crew. Thank you for watching. I appreciate everybody. Every minute you spend with me on my channel, I appreciate it. And there's nobody in the chat. Oh, well, actually, Pamela was in the chat earlier to tell me about Patrick Oren. And this is the other thing. People let me know what's going on. I normally know what's going on because I do keep an eye on everything that's going on. But sometimes I miss things. So I always appreciate people sending me information about things that I might not have seen, might have missed, something I might have got wrong. Something, because I am just a human being and sometimes I do get things wrong, but don't tell anybody. I try not to admit it, but no, of course we all get things wrong sometimes. So I appreciate everyone who tries to keep me on the straight and narrow with information and facts. Remember, this is a fact-based YouTube channel. But having said that, I just want to reiterate, this is Vicky Marie Chats. I'm chatting about true crime. I'm not a detective. I'm not a forensic analyst. I don't pretend to know more than everybody else. I'm not an ex-FBI agent, that you're always getting. It's like, them saying this, that, and the other, and we're supposed to take it as gospel, even though they might not have worked in the FBI for 20 years. It's like, I'm not any of those things. I'm just here to chat about true crime because I have a fascination for true crime, as you all do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, I suppose. And yeah, that's what I'm here for. And we like to share our outrage on here. People, sometimes if you're intrigued with true crime, but maybe your family aren't or your friends aren't, you don't have anyone to chat about things to. And you're outraged because of something that, like, about Patrick Stevenson or about this Nick Reiner case or whatever. And you mention it to someone and you'll say, oh God, Nick Reiner is a real sort of Nepo babe. And they go, who? So that's why we watch true crime, because then we find like-minded people who we can share our thoughts, our opinions. We all have our opinions on cases and we have opposing opinions sometimes. And that's okay. We're not here to catch the criminal. We're not here to try the criminal. We're not here to look after the criminal after they've been found guilty, if they are found guilty. We're here to discuss what's going on and give our opinions because, it's like sitting I always think of it as you're sitting in a pub chatting about something with like-minded people. But even with like-minded people, sometimes you're going to disagree, but we disagree respectfully, don't we? So, yeah, we don't insult each other. We don't have insults on this channel to other chatters or to anyone really, except the perpetrators. We don't care about them. We can insult them as much as we want. But even them, you've got to think of their families. I always think of the perpetrators' families as other victims. You've got the primary victim, you've got the victims' families, and then you've got the perpetrators' families. And even when sometimes they stick up for the perpetrator, we don't know really what we would do if we were in that position. So we do have to think about them as victims too. Okay, so I think I've done maybe enough waffle, and I'm going to talk about what's going on in this case now. So for anybody who doesn't know, does anybody not know about this case? It's a very high profile case because the victims, Rob and Michele Reiner, are famous. they led, I mean, Rob Reiner in particular, but also Michele, who had her own career as a photographer and a producer. They're famous in Hollywood. Rob has been, I mean, he was nearly 80, I think, when he died. Well, when he was murdered. But he's been famous as an actor, a director, producer. You know, he's a Hollywood legend, really, isn't he? Let's have a photo of them. Oh. So this is Rob. Oh, where's it go? Rob and Michele. I think Rob particularly, he's always smiling. Every photo you see of him, you know, he seemed to be, he strikes me, and obviously I don't know him, so I have no clue what he was like as a person. But he always seems a very smiley person. Hi, the boxing world. Hi. He's always got a smile on his face. And Rob and Michele, they had 3 children. They've been married quite a long time. They had 3 adult children. And the most problematic, let's see, find a picture of them. Oh, this is a lovely picture of Rob and Michele a few years ago. Nice black and white picture. Black and white photos are always very beautiful, aren't they, somehow? I don't know why they're more beautiful, but it feels like they are. That was a few years ago, obviously. Let's find it. Oh, here's one, another, again, quite a few years ago. No, they've been together a long time, Rob and Michele, happily married. Unusual in Hollywood, you know, because they lived in Hollywood. You know what it's like in Hollywood. Now, here's a photo from Happier Times. I think this one is the whole family. So here we've got Rob and Michele and their 3 children, 3 adult children. Now that's a lovely picture. That looks like in Happier Times. They did have happy times. As I say, 3 children they've got. There's a thing about Rob Reiner, Nick Reiner. He's like the black sheep of the family, isn't he? He was the one with the drug problems, and he's been off and on with drug problems ever since he was a teenager. And I do think this case is a prime example. Let's have a look at Nick Reiner now. I do think it's a prime example of how mental health struggles look at him now, Nick. How he's changed from when he was young. This is him in court recently. Mental health issues are not exclusive to anyone. Doesn't matter how rich you are. Doesn't matter how successful you are. Doesn't matter whether you come from a single parent background, an immigrant background, or a married couple, you know, a stable married couple like Rob and Michele. Mental health doesn't give a shit about your circumstances. And drugs. Now, there's obviously there's a debate. Is it drugs or alcohol abuse that causes mental health issues? Or is it because you've got mental health issues that you turn to alcohol or drugs? Now, to me, I think, you know, it's difficult. You know, I don't know. I'm not an expert on mental health. But we all know from our own life experience, either from ourselves or other people, some people can take drugs at the weekend, recreationally, never have a mental health episode in their lives. Other people can drink, they can drink quite a lot, never have a mental health episode. And then other people, they have mental health episodes without alcohol or drugs. So what comes first? It's like the chicken and the egg, isn't it? Is it because you've got mental health issues that you turn to alcohol and drugs, or you're more likely to turn to alcohol and drugs? Or, were you always going to be psychotic anyway? Are you born that way? And alcohol and drugs might make it worse, but it wouldn't have made any difference whether you did it or not. And of course, Rob and Michele had 3 children, 3 adult children. The other 2 children, I say they're not children anymore, they're adults. They seem to have done quite well in life. They've had the same upbringing. Obviously, they're different people. Everyone has their own personality. But why did Rob, I keep calling him Rob, why did Nick go completely off the rails, apparently from when he was very, very young, whereas the other 2 children didn't? We all had the same upbringing, as I say. And, it can be difficult being the child of someone who's famous, because, you're probably, even Rob Reiner himself said that, because his father was famous and he knew what it felt like, for everyone to think your dad was great and this, that, and the other, and you're always competing against them, or that's how it feels. So he understood that, but his other son didn't seem to feel that, or his daughter, Remy. Is it Remy, I think her name is? So why did Nick feel this resentment? I think resentment just flows out of Nick. He's had every opportunity, because there are 2 ways you can look at it. If you've got famous parents, you can think, oh, this is bloody brilliant. I've got money to do whatever I want to do. I've got every privilege. I'm going to a nice school. My mum and dad will pay for everything for me. I've got all the benefits that other people don't have. But I think with Nick, there was this glaring resentment. Like, to me, Nick is a narcissist. So he thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread. And he's angry with his dad for actually being the best thing since sliced bread in the world that they live in, at least. Having friends, being successful, having money. Instead of thinking, how lucky am I to have parents who are able to give me all these advantages? He's thinking, oh, I'm better than him. Do you know what I mean? There's a resentment. And I think a lot of people do feel that in their teenage years from any walk of life. But for it to extend into your adulthood, I think is a sign. I think he's definitely got mental illness. Of course he has. But I think his illness is probably narcissism. Apparently he had been diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. I don't know. That will all come out in court. Lots of paranoid schizophrenics, even, although they can be more prone to violence if it's not addressed. A lot of them do just carry on in life, don't murder their parents in a vicious attack. I mean, it's said, I don't know how true it is, because we'll find all that out in court, that he actually slit their throats, in their own home. Imagine. I hope they were asleep. That's all I can say, especially his mum. I don't, just something about a mum. Just imagine her waking up to see her son leaning over her with a knife. And did he say anything to them? Did he say something nasty? Just awful what they've had to go through. And what the siblings as well are going through, knowing that their own brother has done this to their parents. Terrible. So it's quite ironic, isn't it, that all their advantages, all their money, all the resources at their disposal, they could not save Nick, and they could not save themselves. So it makes you realise, and I know this from family experience, when you're trying to deal with that under normal, you just got normal, you haven't got millions in the bank where you can pay for psychiatrists and that. You in the UK, I know you have to wait maybe 2 years for proper assessment, unless you've got the money to go privately. And even if you have got the money to go privately, which obviously Nick, Rob and Michele did, doesn't mean say it's going to help. You know, it didn't help them, did it? All the resources they threw at Nick over the years. Rob indulged him in everything. He made a film with him about addiction. You know, anything Nick wanted, he got. I think his father indulged him as much as he possibly could, and I think most parents probably would do that to try and save their child. They were trying to save him from himself. They probably didn't realise that they were having to try and save themselves from him as well. Now, I know that when Rob was younger, you know, he was physically more able to stand up to Nick, and apparently he's had to actually calm him down on more than one occasion. And then as Rob got older, of course, physically he won't be able to stand up to Nick the same. You know, Nick's in his 30s, he's in the prime of his life, and Rob is practically 80 years old. You know, he's not in the prime of his life physically. You know, and Michele the same. She's a little bit younger, but you know, she's in her 70s. You can't stand up to a great big strong 30-odd-year-old who's decided he wants to slit your throat, can you? You know, it's just awful to think about. Anyway, Nick lived with his parents. When I say lived with them, they had this massive place, didn't they, in the Hollywood area. And he didn't live in the main house. He lived in like a guest house. But part of his indictment is lying in wait. Now, this lying in wait, I'd never heard of it before the Celeste Rivas case. I don't know if it's a particular thing to that area that maybe you can't use it. You know, I've covered a lot of crime cases, and after never having heard of this extra thing of lying in wait, you know, and it literally paints an exact picture, doesn't it, of somebody lying in wait for somebody to come home and then pouncing on them. That's an extra. So he may get the death penalty unless he's found to be not guilty by reason of insanity, of course. He's up for the death penalty. Personally, I hope he does get the death penalty. And I don't even believe in the death penalty, but to me, it's so heinous what he did. So apparently they were out at a party that night, a Hollywood party. Rob had asked if Nick could come along. Again, he's thinking of Nick. He doesn't want to leave Nick at home on his own. So Nick went to the party, embarrassed Rob and Michele, caused arguments. Apparently that'll all come out in the trial, no doubt. Caused arguments, embarrassment, and then Nick walked out, and then Rob and Michele went home. And just by the sound of the indictment, is that what he did? Went back to the house and laid in wait for them for when they came home. And then when they came home, he slit their throats. Awful. Anyway, he then just left them there. Didn't try, you know, didn't think better of it, phone for an ambulance, see if they could be saved. Just left them there to die. Were they even dead when he left? Did he leave them to bleed out? His own mother, his own father, who had spent a lifetime clearing up after this man, you know, doing everything they could to help him. Did he just leave them there, either already dead or just to die? Off he went, wandering around, bought a drink, didn't he? And anyway, finally, they had a massage appointment. Apparently the next day, the massage person turned up, couldn't get access, so contacted the daughter, Nick's sister, who lived up the road, and she had to go in there and find her mother and father dead, covered in blood, how, what a, just how is she ever going to get over that? What a horrible experience for her and for the responders. The thing is, these are all extra victims again, aren't they? People that had to see that. And in the meantime, Nick's just wandering around. He's booked himself into a hotel. What was he doing? Idiot. Anyway, he was finally arrested. Apparently, he was arrested without incident. He was taken to prison, and, that's where he is now. He's been refused bail. And there's been a bit of a kerfuffle, hasn't there, about his defence. So originally, his defence attorney was Alan Jackson, who's a very famous defence attorney. He defended OJ, I think, OJ Simpson. But I think the most that currently people might know about Alan Jackson is he defended Karen Reid, a person who, in my opinion, clearly guilty. Anyway, successfully. Is it Alan Jackson? Maybe Alan Jackson. Yeah, Alan Jackson. So he's very famous. He's been famous for a lot of cases, but I think lately the most famous person he's defended was Karen Reid, who was accused of running over her boyfriend and just leaving him for dead in the snow. Anyway, she was found not guilty. She was found not guilty, so that's all we can say. You'll have your own opinion probably of whether Karen Reid was guilty or not. But anyway, he got her off, and so he's been quite famous for that. So he was appointed as his solicitor, as Nick Reiner's solicitor. He's a very expensive attorney, of course, because of his success record and his fame, if you like. And then, sensationally, he stepped down as an attorney. He made a press conference, said he couldn't be Nick Reiner's solicitor anymore, or attorney, defence attorney. And it's thought, though it's never really been said 100%, that's because the money was withdrawn. So Nick Reiner has got no money of his own. The only money Nick Reiner has got is whatever his parents gave him, or the trust fund, or from his grandfather, maybe even, not only from his parents. He's never done anything constructive in his life. He made that film that was moderately successful, but that's because Rob was behind it. He's never achieved anything properly in his life off his own merit. He's a Nepo baby. So apparently the money was withdrawn. Now, I don't know how Nick's siblings feel about him, but believe me, if that was my brother that had murdered my mum and dad, I would be fuming. There's no way I would want him to have any money for his defence. I would hope they would just throw away the key, lock him up. They've lost their parents because of this twonk. And they'll know the struggles that their parents have gone through trying to make his life better over all these 30 odd years or whatever. So is that true? I don't know. So that's what's thought to have happened. The money was, there was no money to pay Alan Jackson. So Nick was awarded a public defender. But now he's apparently trying to get his grubby little mitts on the trust fund, get his hands on the money. Shouldn't be, in my personal opinion, shouldn't be allowed any money. No, not only him. Anyone who's done a terrible crime like that, why should he be allowed money? It should be sent to the victims. Whatever money he has got, trust fund or inheritance or whatever it is, send it to, of course, his victims are his own family. Send it to a charity. Why should he get it? Why should he profit from his own crime, from his own murders? Why? Just to me, it's a no-brainer. No, you shouldn't get any money. Just maybe for nothing. What does he need money for? He's in prison. Gets his meals. He ain't got a bill to pay. Bit story of his life, really. He's never had to pay a bill, has he? Or he's never had to worry about money because his parents have bailed him out of everything. Now he's in prison. He still doesn't have to worry about money except what sweeties he might get in the commissary. So yeah, don't have any. Anyway, there's talk about him maybe getting this and maybe re-engaging Alan Jackson. And I think it's also important to say that at his press conference where he said he was stepping down from Nick Reiner's case, Alan Jackson said that in his opinion, Nick Reiner was not guilty, definitely not guilty, under the laws of, whatever area it comes under. So that probably means that if he does end up going back into the defence of Nick Reiner, there's going to be an insanity plea, isn't there, or something like that. Not guilty on the grounds of insanity. What else can there be? Anyway, that's for time will tell that. But what I'm really here just to tell you about is this new indictment. Let me just read out about it. So there's a couple of things that we've found out during the new indictment. Is that he's been formally accused. He allegedly killed his parents with a bladed weapon in their residence in the luxurious Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles. And this is a new accusation which replaces the one filed on December the 15th after his address. And it includes charges of murder under special and aggravating circumstances of harassment. And it also includes a special allegation for the use of a dangerous and deadly weapon and, of course, lying in wait. And those are added to the 2 charges of first-degree murder. If he's found guilty, he could face life in prison without the possibility of parole. To me, it's got to be at least that. You murder your parents, 2 people in cold blood, lying in wait. That's a minimum. But also, of course, he may get the death penalty. I don't think he'll get the death penalty. I just don't think he will, but you never know. And now this new formal accusation allows the case to move more quickly towards trial. Well, let's hope it doesn't take as long as Patrick Oren Stevenson's trial has taken over in Australia. So the accused was present in court and he pled not guilty to stabbing his parents. He will remain in jail without bail until the trial. So the district attorney, Nathan J. Hochman, said that he hopes the formal accusation will move the process one step further until the trial and that justice will be served. He said, "We are facing a case of profound betrayal by someone whom his parents loved and trusted." Yeah, as much as they knew he was, a bit of a nutter, if you like, and that he had his problems and all these things, they were still rooting for him. They were still trying to help him. They invited him to that party because probably they didn't like to think of him sitting at home on his own. They invited him to the party where he embarrassed them completely and then lay in wait for them and murdered them. Anyway, the next hearing before the trial is scheduled for September the 15th. So the next time we'll actually, hear any more will be then. So his older brother, Jake Reiner, wrote a post on Substack this April. Now, we read through that. I did a video about that, explaining about how he learned of his parents' death. He described what it was like to be the son of a Hollywood star like Rob Reiner, who's director of classics such as When Harry Met Sally. That's one of my favourite films of all time. When Harry Met Sally. The humour. So I think the fact that he directed that says a lot about him. So Jake described his father as a hero and his mother as a loving and unconditional person, but did not mention his brother at any time. And now it describes Nick as a screenwriter. He's not a bloody screenwriter. He wrote he did one documentary that his father backed him on. He's a Nepo baby. It says he's spoken publicly about his drug addiction. Yeah, he would love that, because if he was talking about himself, as long as he's talking about himself, Nick is happy. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and some media outlets suggested he was receiving treatment for a serious psychiatric disorder at the time of the murder. Again, things that will come out at the trial. And the night before they were found dead, Rob and Nick attended a Christmas party hosted by comedian Conan O'Brien. And according to partygoers, father and son had a shouting match that same night. So, yeah, now, of course, please let me know what you think. What do you think of Nick Reiner? Do you feel sorry for him? Or do you think he deserves everything that's coming to him? You know, personally, I don't feel sorry for him at all. I think he was given every advantage by these loving parents. And you know what? He responded to it by murdering them, because he's a twonk, complete twonk. No, I don't accept this psychiatric defence. I mean, afterwards, he booked into a hotel, apparently went off, showered, changed clothes, was wondering, he knew what he'd done was wrong. You know, if he didn't realise what he'd done was wrong, why didn't he stay in the house? You know, he knew exactly. He was resentful, he was bitter, he was narcissistic. You know, those parents, you know, this is my opinion, they could have done anything for him, literally. But I bet everything that was bad in his life he did not take responsibility for would all have been their fault. He'd look out the window one morning, it was raining. Oh, it was his parents' fault. You know, that's the sort of man he is. He wouldn't take responsibility for his own faults, for what he'd done wrong. You know, he's just all about him. Instead of thinking, as, you know, his brother did, realise it, because I'm sure his brother, the thing is, most teenagers go through some issues, don't they? There's not many that don't. But most of them grow out of it, don't they? By the time they've got to 30, you'd hope that they'd sort of grown out of all this bitterness and resentment. But he didn't, you know, because he had a huge chip on his shoulder. The world owed him a living. Well, he had a living. He didn't need to make a living. He could have taken, imagine if you had all that money behind you, like from your parents. So you didn't have to worry about actually paying your rent or paying your bills or buying food or any of those normal things that people have to worry about. So you had all this time on your hands and money behind you from your trust funds, from your granddad, from your dad. Why not do something constructive? Why not go off and volunteer for a charity or something? Because you don't need money, you don't need to earn a living. So why not go and do some voluntary work? Why not go and do something positive, leave a positive legacy in this batshit world that we live in? You know, having every opportunity to do that. Hi, Sean. Hi. You know, what do you think about it all? What do you think about Rob Reiner? Not Rob, sorry, Nick. Nasty Nick. That's how I think of him. I just think he's just selfish. I do have no sympathy for him whatsoever. Because the thought that those two parents, who, as I say, they couldn't have done any more for this twonk. I mean, he's be the one that's suffering now. If there he is in prison, who's, you know, taking him his, I don't know, whatever he wants, books, sanitary products like deodorant and stuff, I don't know what. Who's visiting him? And I'll tell you what, 100%, if he would have murdered anybody else, his parents would still be visiting him in prison. You know, or if they would have recovered from their attacks, if there wouldn't have been such fatal attacks, they'd be visiting him, looking after him, because that's the sort of people they are. Hey, Wesley, that's the sort of people they are, or they were. But look where it got them. Look where it got them with this horrible person. So this was Rob and Nick around the time, that's the light sort of, can't see it. Why is the light doing that? Try that. This is Rob and Nick on In Happier Times. This is around about the time when they did the documentary. See, Nick is happy there because he's the centre of attention. Hi, yeah, it's off topic, but have a look further up the chat. I've been talking about that. I did a video about it earlier. Oh, yeah. Have a look further up the chat and you'll see the video that I did on that. I did a video on it quite a few hours ago now. Breaking news. But thank you for saying that, because you know that we've been following that as well. I will, when we've got more details, because we haven't got any details about it yet. When I've got more details, I will say more. But yeah, I've talked about that. And there's a link further up in the chat. A link to the video that I did earlier. So yeah, it's funny that when I try and show a photo, there's a lot of glaring off the screen, sadly. But Rob's sort of just a white image. Oh, that's annoying. I wonder if I can make it better. Yeah, and Rob, I think he shows the classic signs of, not Rob, Nick, of drug addiction, because he looks different on every picture. Hi, Wesley. Yeah, you know, like people that have got problems with drugs, they change. They go thinner, fatter. Sometimes their face looks haunted. Other times they look quite healthy, maybe when they're off the drugs or whatever. And I think that he's, what's the word I'm looking for? He's, sorry, I'm messing about now, pressing the wrong buttons. He's typical of that, isn't he? Looks different on every photo. You know, sometimes he looks thinner, sometimes he looks fatter, sometimes his eyes look haunted, sometimes he looks okay. I think the happiest that he looked was when he was doing, let's try that, and sort of, oh, hey, look how Rob just sort of looks almost ghost-like when I try and show a picture of him. Oh, that's perhaps the best. Not really. Anyway, yeah. But this is what it looks like now, and I'll tell you what, is Nick. There's a man with the devil in him. Now, you know what I think about the devil? The devil is in us, some of us. Life's like a constant fight against the devil, I think. Look at him. The devil works through people, and the devil is in this man. Oh, and the other thing that came out is apparently he's not been behaving very well in prison. I did find an article about that. Let me find it. yeah, he's had some incidences in prison of aggression. Now, to me, someone like a nepo baby like Nick Reiner, do you imagine he's been indulged all his life? You know, his parents have loved him unconditionally. His parents have loved him unconditionally and probably indulged him too much. But it's very difficult as a parent not to, I think, you know, because when the emotion's there, it's very hard to turn your back on your own child, I would imagine. You know, and sadly, they paid the price for that with their own life. But apparently, he's been disciplined. He's been held in the Los Angeles County Twin Towers Correctional Facility after becoming extremely hostile and yelling profanities at deputies when a guard was delayed in escorting him back to his cell following a shower. The non-physical incident resulted in a 5-day loss of privileges. So apparently they could not, they were delayed in taking him back to his cell because they were responding to an emergency elsewhere in the facility. So he was yelling, screaming, using profanities and refusing commands or rules. And the penalty that he's received for it is a formal disciplinary write-up and a 5-day loss of commissary, phone calls and visitation privileges. Yeah. So apparently he's being housed alone. So he is in solitary in a high security medical observation and mental health unit. But you can imagine for someone like Nick being indulged all his life just doing what the hell he wants. And now he's in prison and it'd be like, as long as everything going his way, he'd be all right. But as soon as something goes wrong, you know, this is what he'll have been like all his life, won't it? It's all right as long as they're doing everything around him and what suits him and looking after his welfare. When it comes to the day that there's something obviously going on in another part of the prison and they need all the resources, so they have to keep him there rather than taking him immediately back to his cell. God knows what was going on. Somebody could have tried to delete themselves, you know, like Patrick Stevenson's reportedly done in his Australian prison. And so all resources would have been, you know, there could be a riot going on. But you know what? Nick Reiner, he won't care about anything else. All he cares about is what's happening to him. Why aren't you looking after me? I'm the most important person. I'm all that matters in this crazy world. So he got the ump, and that is exactly, I think, what happened with his parents. They went out for that night out. That night, they got into an argument. Maybe his parents got angry with him for the first time, you know. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to finish there. I've got to go. I've got things to do now. As far as well, let me know what you think about Rob Reiner, of course. Do you think he's a self-entitled, narcissistic, nepo baby twonk? Or do you think, you know, poor Nick? You can see what I think, can't you, by the way? So, but you know what? We've all got our opinions. Let me know what you think in this case. We've got, so the trial, it looks like, well, the next hearing is in September. God knows when the actual trial will be. I feel like we're spending a lot of time waiting for trials at the moment. So this incident now with Samantha Murphy's alleged killer, Patrick Stevenson, who allegedly has tried to take his own life in prison, how will that affect that case again? So we've already waited 2.5 years and still the trial hasn't even started. For Patrick Oren Stevenson. How will this attempt affect that? And, you know, how serious it, because all I know at the moment, until I try and find out more as the day goes on, is He's in hospital, but how serious is he? What did he try and do? How did he try and do it? Why is he not being monitored? Was he not under a self-deletion watch? Did he leave a note? Doubt it. He's not going to leave a note and say where Samantha is, because do you know what these twonks? Hey, Sarah. Hi. These twonks, they don't, he won't have been thinking, oh, I'll let Samantha's family know where her remains are before I shuffle off this mortal coil. He won't care about that. He won't care about them. Perhaps he doesn't believe in God or the afterlife. But, I would just say to any of those twonks out there, do you know for certain? Maybe they don't have a belief in the afterlife, so they don't care about, justice. Even if they don't get justice on this plane, they don't care about justice in the next life because they don't believe in God or the afterlife or whatever. Well, but I would just say to them, are you sure though? Are you sure? I hope you are, because you're going to find out one way or another. And, none of us know. I don't know. Could be, that there is nothing on the other side. But ultimately, it all comes down to what you believe. And to me, you've only got to look up to the universe to know that there is more to this world, more to the world, to the universe. There's so many things we don't know. We're just a tiny little speck of dust. We only know what we're dealing with now, but we don't know what happens when we go on to the next plane. So I would just say to them, well, okay, you believe that. If you think you can put your mortal soul in peril, you do that. But, you're the one who's going to have to put up with it, whatever it is. Okay, thank you. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for all your likes, your subscribes. Special thank you to my members. Please leave your DNA on the subscribe button, the like button, and the share button, the hype button. Those are all free ways you can help my channel. But special thank you to those of you who've joined or sent Ko-fis, for especially the birthday Ko-fis. I'm looking forward to my birthday on Sunday, another year around the sun. And as soon as I know any more developments about Patrick or any of the cases, of course, that we're covering, I will be on as soon as possible to let you know about them. So, thank you. And as always, till I see you again, may your God go with you. Look after yourselves too.